Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 65 of the Hardly Millennial podcast, where we are young, dumb, and full of...
Oh, baby, opinions.
Baby. Those sweet, sweet opinions. Ladies and gentlemen, across from me today, I have your favorite Hardly Millennial, Vincent Nasal Huts.
Am I the favorite?
Your podcasts always do extremely well.
Well, that's fucking awesome.
People love funny enough, the podcast
I feel flattered almost.
Well, you should feel flattered. You're very entertaining
thank
to
you
listen
guys.
to.
All right.
And so funny enough, the podcast that's done the best on our channel so far, and not so much in regards to viewership, although it is up there. It's how fast we got the viewership. So we had, I can't remember what the title was, but what I do remember is the word sex was in the title.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Tag word.
Yes. So I remember we put it up like we always do.
Yeah.
And then Matthew was like, Adam, have you checked where our YouTube views are at on tonight's podcast? And this was like a half hour after we put it up. I was like, no, why? And he goes, dude, we're at like 25 already.
Oh,
and then it just went up and up and up. And I was like, oh my gosh, all just because the word sex.
The things that people type into that search bar would probably appall us all. The things you can find on YouTube are... I don't want to recommend something like this because I think it's an incredibly toxic waste of time. But if you're ever bored and you just want to see what kind of weirdness the internet is starting to produce, just go on a YouTube tangent sometime. Really, you'd be surprised at the stuff that's on there. Type in just random words into the search bar, see what you pull up. You'd be surprised. There's things that make it into YouTube that you're like, how? Why?
Oh yeah.
Why?
Well, there's a lot of just videos out there that people create that are like their purpose of existence is just to be weird and bizarre and make no sense.
There's a video that I saw not too long ago, and I'm pretty sure it was on YouTube. I'm fairly certain you can find it. This kid had close to several dozen copies of Jurassic Park on VHS, and was stomping on them till his feet bled.
Interesting content.
Or at least until they appeared to bleed.
Right.
You know, who's to say? It was very bizarre because there was an unforgivable amount of Jurassic Park VHS tapes involved. That alone raises so many questions. Just the sheer amount of those.
Well, I remember this was I was watching some YouTube video about that was just talking about different YouTube channels that have been out there and the kinds of channels that have been created in the past. And I remember he was trying to make the point that the amount of videos you have on your YouTube channel doesn't equal like being monetized, right? Or getting that kind of viewership. Because one of the channels he made mention of was this gentleman who just posted videos of him drinking, like downing like a water bottle. Like just that. And every video he had was that.
I bet money if you type into that search bar how to blow your nose, you're going to come up with at least 13 hits. You know what I mean? There's going to be at least 13 videos that are relevant to what you're searching for.
Oh, I would say well over 13.
That's just a very, very conservative estimate. Right. But yeah. I'm just saying for reference sake.
But there are some ones out there that are random like that do kind of catch momentum. There was one, this guy, I feel like you may have seen him, but he would always post videos and it's always the same downward angle going up shot of his face while he's like playing the guitar. And all of his videos are like, Evanescence, Bring Me to Life cover. Or Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit cover, right?
I've seen too many of those to where I can't think of a single one that's like matching.
Okay, so
what you're talking about.
Okay, so this gentleman, if you click on them, so let's say it's Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit, he would literally start playing Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Okay.
And then he would sing, hey, like Rockstar by Smash Mouth. every
ew.
single one, but
Oh,
just
ew.
but to that song, like to the music of that song.
That's a little.
But all of his videos are that.
That's a little disturbing. that perturbs me in a weird way.
But they ended up becoming these like prank videos. Like people would set up and be like, dude,
Okay.
check out this sick cover of Teen Spirit.
I'm so tired of these prank videos. One thing around the office where I work is, well, it used to be. It's lost a lot of traction, but on Friday people would post sneaky links into our chats.
Man.
That led to Rebecca Black's Friday YouTube video. It was almost unmistakable. Like we had a saying for a while, which was "Don't click on links on Friday." Just don't do it. You're gonna get Rebecca Black. But yeah, no, I had a buddy. He okay. Now this is gonna take a little bit of a fork in the road as far as what we're talking about, because this is still on the subject of YouTube. However, I want to do a callback to a previous episode I believe you and Matt did about taboos.
Oh gosh, that was a while ago. But
Yeah,
yes.
that was an early one.
Which is funny because we actually did a couple of them about taboos, but both of them were like back when we were in the teens.
Oh, okay.
I think of the podcast.
Okay.
But anyways, go on.
So anyway, along the lines of weird sexual taboos, there's a world of weird fetishes out there that exist. Stuff you wouldn't even think would be a thing, but they exist. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with a certain act, and there's a name for it in Japanese, but I can't remember for the life of me what it is. But essentially, it is the act of gaining sexual satisfaction from being hit in the abdomen or hitting someone in the abdomen.
Isn't that something they used to do before, like meets, like fighting meets or whatnot? You would just hit each other in the stomach,
basically,
and stuff like
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
But that's a sexual fetish now.
It's under a category of BDSM, but essentially somebody is either strung up and getting their guts punched, and getting off on that, or getting off on having somebody like their sexual partner strung up and them doing the punching. There's some amount of sexual gratification, not just from the act, but from what I'm told, also the sounds that are made during the act.
That one doesn't weird me out as much as some of the other ones I've seen out there. Like,
you don't find that in the least bit strange, though?
I mean, a little strange, but I've also seen fetishes where there's a fetish of women in high heels kicking men in the balls.
That's a little on the extreme side.
Like,
I say, okay, here's where I draw the
so
line.
compared to that, I'm like, oh well, whatever.
Admittedly, and those who know me really well, know that I have some very interesting tastes. There are lines which I have for myself, and one of which, anything to do with genital mutilation, can just go ahead and not happen. Thank you very much. It's when it starts to get to that realm that I go ahead and I usually turn it off. Mm-hmm. Unless there's been a couple of times where I've been captured by the morbid curiosity. I get the morbid curiosity so bad.
I do too.
That train wreck syndrome where you just can't look away. You have to keep looking, and you kind of hate yourself a little bit for doing so.
Oh, I never hate myself.
Oh, really?
I pride
You've never
myself
felt
in
like
I love that I have a morbid curiosity about me.
Okay.
Because so for example, there was remember the Momo thing?
Yeah,
that was
I remember
around
that.
with you two.
Yeah.
So it was Matthew and I who were sitting on the couch in our house when one of us read an article about it, right? Mm-hmm. And then, the other one looked up more about it. And I was the one that was like, I have to find this video. I have to find this Momo video. I need to watch it. And then I need to find every single Momo video that has existed out there.
Yeah.
It was just this long rabbit hole I got into that night.
Jeez,
where I was just looking up, but I learned everything about Momo. I learned about the farce it was back in 2016. I learned about where the picture came from, the sculpture, like why it's a thing. There was a game associated with it. It was just, it went deep. There was a lot to do with Momo.
There was like an obsession with it almost.
Yeah, well, not an obsession with me, but just those are the things that make me love the morbid curiosity part. Is all of a sudden I learned all this stuff about this thing that was Momo, and anybody knew was like, oh, it's this thing that makes you want to kill yourself or something. It's like, no, I went a lot deeper than that, like where it came from. And hold on, guys.
We have a very excitable dog scratching at the door right now. A very, very excitable dog.
Can you keep him entertained for like 5 minutes?
I can keep him entertained for 5 minutes. Okay. While this dog gets taken care of, Adam is going to walk out of the room. So yeah, 5 minutes we got to fill. Yeah, doing good. How are you guys? Good. I'm glad everyone's doing good out there. And if you're not, I'm sorry. Really, really, truly. That sucks. I hope things. I really do hope things get better. If they're in fact taking a turn for the south. Positive attitudes, positive vibes, all that good stuff. If you need them, you got them. And it looks like Adam's back. So
I'm back.
It wasn't 5 minutes, Adam. You promised 5 minutes.
With that dog, I never know how long it's going to take.
Well, Adam has a nice little surprise to listen to then when he gets to edit. Only we know.
I don't edit
don't
them,
we,
dude.
YouTube land? Only we know.
I don't even edit them. I just listen back to them. So thank you for that, whatever it was.
Oh man.
But anyways,
yeah. So
we talked about Momo and like the morbid curiosity thing.
The morbid curiosity thing, a number of years back, took me on a very, very interesting rabbit hole, I guess, so to speak. I discovered live leaks, which, if anybody's familiar with live leaks,
oh yes,
you know what I'm about to talk about. And anybody who's not, if you got a weak stomach, don't look that up. Don't look up live leaks. Stay away from live leaks, as a matter of fact. But one area in particular was cartel executions.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about a few of those.
Man, there's an ungodly plethora, just a mass compilation of videos of the cartel executing people that, like, in crazy ways. Like,
right.
Most of them are downright disturbing. But there's some that are like. And here's where the morbid curiosity kicks in, because, you know, I'm only watching a video. I'm not seeing this happen in real life. And that's where the disconnect sort of happens. So that's why, like, some of these videos, I kind of laugh almost, because I'm like, oh my God, like, they are going over the top with this. Like,
right.
I don't know. You think it's safe for me to give some examples?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh man. Okay.
Just, listener discretion advised.
This is probably going to be an NSFW tag. So
yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to recall videos. I tried really hard to forget. Okay. So the one I'm thinking of in particular, I think it was a more recent one. But there was a video involving what looked like some sort of assassination that had happened. Some dudes, and I swear, the guy who was filming, I swear these guys have like handy cams or something, or the GoPros or something, because these are coming in like 1080p crystal quality, like ISIS quality videos now that they have out there in the cartel lands. But this guy, I'm not sure if they had stopped him on the street or if he had gotten out of his car or what, but they were just blasting him. 3 dudes with fully automatics just laying into this guy, and he's on the ground. He's done. And this dude who's filming with the fully automatic rifle he's got is just unloading a magazine into this dude's head. His head is nothing anymore.
Right.
It's just a floppy piece of bone and skin just flopping up and down on the concrete. I'm like, dude, stop! Like, Jesus Christ, what did he do? What did he do to deserve that? Like, that's overkill, man.
Oh yeah.
You see some of the videos where people get their heads chopped off. The lucky ones get a really sharp machete. The really unfortunate ones get a really dull machete, and somebody who's never cut someone's head off the machete before in their life. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel bad for those ones where it's like 30 good whacks. It's like, oh my gosh, come on. Like, something's got to give at some point.
I think where the morbid curiosity comes with those particular videos is, at least for people like me, maybe you as well, but you don't see that kind of stuff or hear about that kind of stuff more so in real life. We know that war happens. Mm-hmm. We know some stories of war. We know torture happens. Yeah. But that's all stuff that's part of a system in place already to, quote unquote, better our lives or whatever it is. It's part of life, right? but we don't look at the really dark parts of life of like, okay, that's what these people are doing, but here's what like the cartel does.
Yeah.
Here's what serial killers do. Here's what it looks like when somebody's really driven to the point of wanting to kill themselves.
Yeah.
There's plenty of those videos on Live Leaks also. I once saw a video on Live Leaks. I'm just going to reiterate, listener discretion advised, because this is where this podcast is going right now.
Yeah, we're going to some dark places tonight, ladies and gentlemen, so buckle up.
There was this video, though, where I don't know if it was cartel related or what it was, but it was like 3 guys had put somebody in a bag and just dragged them into like the middle of the forest or something. And just all of them had like bats.
3 guys, or it was like 3 guys, 1 hammer or something like that.
It was like 16 minutes of somebody had a bat though. But like
3 teenagers beating what looked like a vagrant to death in the middle of some woods.
Yeah.
And then they ran away giggling, cleaning their weapons off. And they were
done.
Exactly.
But this thing was like in like a sack or something like that.
No, they had them wrapped in a tarp.
Maybe that's what it was.
It was like
it's been years since I saw it,
but yeah, no, the sounds that dude made when they were hitting him will haunt me forever.
Yes,
that gurgling noise.
Oh my word, yes.
That was whack. I mean, everything about that video was. For those who haven't seen the video we're talking about, it is 16 minutes of just absolute torture for some poor bastard.
Yeah,
they're wailing on him with what looked like an umbrella, but then you realize that after the sound it's making that it's a wooden bat wrapped in a trash bag.
Yeah.
And that they're hitting him with baseball bats, head, shoulders, all over, legs. They wailed on his legs. I felt bad. Like, that's yeesh. Then, you think it's over with, and no, they pull out screwdrivers and they start wiggling it around in this dude's abdomen, just getting in it. And you're just like, oh my God, 16 minutes of this.
Yes.
And I don't know what backwards Soviet country this happened in. God forbid if that happened here stateside. But...
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, but the morbid curiosity comes.
You watch the whole thing.
Well, you watch the whole thing, but you only see that shit on horror movies, or just in movies in general. So all of a sudden you're seeing footage and
real
you
life,
keep having to remind yourself, like, this isn't a movie.
Yeah.
This is fucking happening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's just like, I don't know, it's just this weird thing of like this surrealism that you just keep watching to grasp your head around the fact that this shit actually happens.
You're watching mortality, man. You're watching real, like that was why did you ever hear of a movie, it was a couple of movies that got banned in the United States a number of decades back, called Faces of Death. So what Faces of Death was, and I only ever saw the first one, but it was a compilation of, it was almost like a documentary on death. Like, it wasn't just like a picture show of horrible things happening. Like, it was a rudimentary documentary of death. They went from everything to restaurants in like Pan Asian countries, which they would bring out a live monkey and put it in this contraption in a table where only its head was exposed.
Right.
And the restaurateurs would take these mallets and they would bash the monkey's head in and they'd eat the brains. That was the meal. That was the delicacy. That was the reason they were there.
Right.
They covered South American tribes that practiced cannibalism. They went into like mortuaries to watch like autopsies happen. These movies were banned in the United States because of the content. They thought it was too shocking, but it was real.
Right.
It was done very professional. I'm not going to say tastefully because I feel like anything having to do with dead people in a camera isn't going to be all that tasteful at the end of the day. So, but as far as they could do, it was informative, if nothing else. The shock value isn't there. If you're somebody who, like us, we've gone on the Live Leak tangents.
Right.
If you watch Faces of Death, you're not going to be shocked by anything.
Right.
Most of it's grainy 70s footage anyway. It's an interesting watch though. It's a very objective look, or a very subjective or objective. Which one am I thinking of? Comment down and below.
It depends. This was all very factual based, right?
Objective, right?
Yeah, objective.
A very objective way of looking at death. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny. We were just talking about death. I was just talking about death yesterday with Kyle.
Yeah.
He was on the podcast. Well,
we got all the subjects tonight, aren't we?
We got into like dimensions and what is God, and
I don't like to worry too much about the metaphysical because I mean everybody has their beliefs as to what's going to happen post mortem. My concerns are the more material. When I die, like what happens to my body, essentially. That's
Right.
those are the things that keep me up at night. I mean, I don't know if you've ever thought about like how do you want your body interred for eternity once your soul has left your mortal coil? Bury, cremation.
I've always been like, I like the thing of like, I don't know, just bury me in the ground. Like I don't even need to be put in a coffin or anything. Just
Really?
bury me in the ground. Yeah.
No casket, no nothing.
No, it's nothing really that's bothered me.
I think that's something with our generation because I'm noticing. I that's a question I'd like to ask people is, you know, if you could pick any way to be buried, most people choose cremation. But I'm noticing a lot of people who are on that same mindset. And I love to quote Diogenes, if you've ever heard of him. He was a philosopher, a Greek philosopher who used to troll Socrates all the time. Look up Diogenes sometimes. He had a very interesting perspective of death. When asked what he wanted done with his body after his death, Diogenes replied, "I want to be left on the outside of the city walls with a stick." And they said, "Well, what are you going to do with the stick?" And he says, "To fend off the dogs, to the ones that want to come eat my body." They're like, "But if you're dead, how will you be able to use a stick?" And he said, "If I'm dead, what care do I have what happens with my body?"
that's a pretty profound little proverb there.
Diogenes, check him out, man.
I'll have to. That really shooketh me.
Another I'll go off on a little Diogenes tangent here. Another incident that happened with Diogenes was there was a Greek city in which he lived like a hobo. He straight up lived in a big wooden cask. He wore rags. He was once kicked out of a marketplace for publicly masturbating. Like he was that kind of guy. He just no fucks were given with Diogenes. So he lived in this barrel. And just outside the skirts of the city. He was basically a beggar, but he was like one of those ska punk troll beggars. You know what I mean? One that was like, "Hey man, you got $5?" And then you're like, "No, dude, get out of here." And he drops the meaning of life on you, and you're like, fucking here's 10, dude. But so the incident that was happening was there was an attack on this city that he was squatting in at the time, and everyone's running around losing their fucking minds, and Diogenes begins pushing his barrel up and down the street, and people stopped and looked at him, you know, stopped panicking for a second, and inquisitively looked at Diogenes, who was quickly rolling his barrel up and down the street, and they said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm being just as helpful as everyone else right now."
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, gotta love him. But as far as the whole death thing's concerned, this is how I want to go. And I'm glad I get to put this on the podcast because this is going to be immortalized on the internet.
Before you go into that though, so what happens to your body after you die? Why is that something that's important to you?
To me, the prospect of rotting in the ground ain't cool. Like, I don't know. Like, I know it's the natural order of things, and I'm somebody who I'm all about the natural order of things. I recognize that there is as such. But to me, I feel like if there's the probability to do something else with this husk, I'm gonna. I don't know why. So my thing is, I don't care how it happens. Elon Musk, looking at you here, if you got room, like you can duct tape me to the fuselage of like one of your Falcon X rockets, but I want my corpse to be shot into space. Yeah. I think that'd be rad. Yeah. It doesn't have to even be a clean job. Like you don't have to put me in a casket either. Just like I said, duct tape and like you got a rocket, duct tape.
See, I've thought about that too. I'm somebody, and as you know, I'm somebody who's very fascinated and loves space. Mm-hmm. But the way that I look at having like my body shot out into space is I'm also aware of what a lot of average Joes out there are unaware of, and that's how much space debris exists around, like orbiting the Earth, and how much just like basically space trash. God bless you.
Oh, dude.
Ooh, God bless you.
My allergies are killing me this year.
Oh man. Ooh. Oh. It's funny they haven't hit me yet. I'm waiting for it, but they haven't hit me yet.
This is the worst they've been in a long time for me.
Oh man. Are we going again?
Yeah.
Going? Okay. Bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you might hear a world record sneeze tonight. That'll just be the last half of the podcast is me sneezing and sounding like I'm crying. Like, I'm so happy right now.
People are going to be like, I can't believe I just lived. There it goes again. If anybody's keeping count, let us know.
Let us know in the comments.
In the comments how many times
if
Vince sneezes today.
You keep an accurate count by the end of the video, you'll get a prize.
Oh my god!
I don't know what the prize will be, but you might get something. I don't know. Maybe a nice comment from me.
This podcast is getting interesting. I've
It's
already
getting
had
interesting.
to
Attacks,
leave
man.
for 30 seconds, and then we have Vince having a sneezing fit over here. It's fun. Oh, okay. Here's something. Oh, bless you.
Yep.
Here's something I want to talk to you about. So I spoke with Thomas about this a couple of podcasts ago, but you are somebody who literally has a tattoo from this particular franchise.
Oh, okay.
So how does Vincent feel about the Star Wars Episode 9 trailer?
I got another sneeze coming. Hold on.
Sorry about this, folks.
You're okay. No, everybody, please. Thank you for blessing me. If you did. If not, why?
Just jeez.
Okay. So how did Vincent feel about the Episode 9 trailer?
Yes.
I've been saying it the whole freaking time. If you think Snoke's dead, you are wrong. That was a lot of people's gripes. That was a lot of gripes I heard about the last two movies. There's no setup on Snoke. Yeah, there's about to be. We have different theories on what the final menace will be. If anybody follows Adam on his Facebook, I guess they've already found out that Adam believes that this is going to be a Jedi rehash.
Yes, Return of the Jedi, just done in J.J. Abrams fashion, just like he did Force Awakens was basically A New Hope.
I am a little more hopeful, however. Again, my hope so far that I've placed in the most recent Star Wars movies have not been for naught. Mm-hmm. Like they've been, I've been satisfied. Unpopular opinion time. Honestly, I think the Star Wars movies right now, given the way they're being done, are as good as they're gonna get. If you don't like that, well, I have bad news for you. I don't think the new Star Wars movies are made for you.
Well, I mean,
really don't.
I enjoyed The Last Jedi.
But if you're a stickler to a franchise and you're not willing for any flexibility, you're going to be very disgruntled by big changes that are made. And I think that's what's happening in the Star Wars universe right now. There are big changes being made.
But I disagree with that, though, because I would argue that you're just getting that this new trilogy out, this continuation of this 6-movie saga we already had is, at least Force Awakens was a rehash. And then what I appreciated about Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi is we finally got, I can't say finally, because I guess we only had the one movie beforehand, but we got this new story in the series of like, okay, cool. A solid, new, different story, but that still acts as a good continuation.
But it's still a continuation, It's a good anchor point for the main arc.
But the thing is, then they bring back J.J. Abrams as the director. He comes in here to do Episode 9, and it's called The Rise of Skywalker. And I'm going to reiterate what I posted on Facebook, because I'm sure a lot of people aren't on there. But he's The Rise of Skywalker, and Thomas and I discussed it, and we're like, well, technically Kylo Ren is a Skywalker. Leia is his mother. And so then you're going to get to this point to where, well, now you're bringing the Emperor back. So obviously the Emperor's behind it all.
You think it's going to be the Emperor? I am hopeful that it's not, because I feel like that'd be a really cheeseball move.
And that's exactly what I think you would get with J.J. Abrams.
You think so?
Yes.
It's going to be okay.
I really do.
I'm hopeful. I'm not sure what kind of movie it's going to be yet, because I don't. These last 3 movies, like the very first one, you remember, I from the moment it was announced, I made a decision that I was going to avoid any and all media having to do with the movie whatsoever. I wasn't going to read a single interview. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to watch a single trailer. I went in blind. I went in blind, and I did just that. And I was satisfied. Yes, there were a lot of New Hope callbacks, but again, like I said, it's as good as it's gonna get right now. I think Lucas could have done better? No, I don't. We saw that with the 1, 2, and 3. A lot of people didn't like those movies, you know, for specific reasons. But ultimately, I'm just hopeful.
So who
I'm
do you
hopeful they're
think
gonna
the
be
big?
good.
So you think Snoke is the big bad guy? Of
I do.
The entire 9 movie saga now.
See, this is my thing. I don't think Snoke has ever been actually alive. If I were to say it was anybody, if they were to actually do that and call back a character who may not have necessarily been canon, but kind of was, it'd be Darth Plagueis. I think if it was anybody, they would call back Darth Plagueis, the person who trained Palpatine, the bigger and badder of the big bad, somebody who could physically manifest themselves from death into an emanation of the Force, and that's why I think whoever the Snoke person is, they're just a Force emanation. They haven't been alive in the entire time these movies have been going, essentially.
Yeah.
And I think we're about to see the same thing with Mark Hamill. Snoke is like the Sith equivalent of the Jedi figuring out how to come back from the other side, just like Yoda and Obi-Wan did, and eventually Anakin somehow.
What do you think Rey's connection is in all of this?
I think Rey is... I don't know. Honestly, maybe it's because I haven't put too much emotional investment into Rey, but it's kind of hard to. If that makes any sense. She's not my favorite character in the fucking series.
Well, what kills me is she's been constantly the main character, and she just hasn't done much. You haven't seen a lot from Rey.
Yeah.
You know, The Force Awakens, like, she was able to grab Luke's lightsaber. Okay, cool. Then had, a half-assed, pansy lightsaber fight with Kylo Ren.
Happened to show up at the one bar on the one planet in the one galaxy that was home to a drawer that contained Luke Skywalker's fucking lightsaber.
Well, and
this universe seems to just be handing her things,
yeah.
Which is why I'm kind of like, no, because I know whatever's gonna happen to you, you're gonna come out of it.
Well, and
you know what I mean?
Right.
There's no peril.
Well, that was the issue I had with The Last Jedi also, was you got this cool story with them doing the standoff, the ship doing the standoff, and them sending the people to, like, the casino world and, all that kind of shit, right?
Yeah,
that was happening. That was entertaining to me. And then when they would go back to what's happening with Rey, it's like, okay, you're kind of sort of being trained in the way of a Jedi, and now you're able to have, mind footsies with Kylo Ren. Yeah. And then even when it ended, you still got a half-ass pansy little fight from Kylo Ren and Mark Hamill. You didn't even get it from Rey at all. So now all of a sudden you have this new movie that comes out. J.J. Abrams has stated that this takes place years after The Last Jedi. So it's like, okay, so who's Rey? What are we doing with Rey here?
Yeah.
It just, like, so what? Is she just a random... Is she a reincarnation of some, like, really crazy Jedi that once existed? Or is she just somebody who just was randomly bestowed with midi-chlorians that surpassed that of...
One prediction I'm going to make now, and you heard it here, is that this next one, we're going to get a lot of Rey exposition. I feel like we're going to get a lot of exposition in general.
I feel like we're owed it at this point.
I feel like this one's going to run really long. This one's going to have a really long runtime. There's going to be a lot of exposition at first, and then one huge-ass culminating battle, essentially.
Speaking of long run times, not to go off in a tangent here, but there's been one of my favorite directors out there is Christopher Nolan.
Oh yeah, anyone who knows you knows this.
And
by the way, like I almost rolled my eyes just there, but it'd be rude to not tell you guys. Adam and Christopher Nolan, that's dude, that's like piss and a fart. Let me tell you what.
He's definitely what him and Darren Aronofsky are definitely my top two favorites.
Yeah.
And but thing with Christopher Nolan, back to my original point, he's announced that he's in the pre-production stage of making this new movie of his, right?
Okay.
We know that Robert Pattinson is the lead in it, and then there's a few other characters who are like actors you'd recognize from places, but you don't know their names.
Okay.
And But the way that they're describing how this movie is, like, the movie's not even being, like, in production yet, and people are already saying, like, this is going to be, like, one of the best movies of all time. So Robert Pattinson was talking about how when he read the script, and they've been so tight-lipped about this movie that Robert Pattinson they didn't mail like him the script or anything.
Yeah.
He had to come to a studio, sit in a locked room by himself with the script and read it and then leave it there when he left. And it's supposed to have the reason why the runtime made me think of this is because it's supposed to have the runtime of 3 movies.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So if you look at a typical movie being like an hour and a half long,
Yeah.
so you're looking at like a 4.5 hour runtime,
Yeah.
if
Like-
that remains to be true.
Like
about
one
the
of
movie.
the unedited Lord of the Rings movies. Yeah.
But they've thrown. But as far as like the plot of the movie is concerned, they've thrown around, because of its runtime, it being more like an Odyssey, and they're like something about the time continuum, so it's going to be more of a sci-fi flick. Like, yeah, it's got me really excited for it, but who knows? This might just be building the hype up a little too much.
Yeah, that's when people come out and say, "Oh, greatest movie ever," I can't help but be skeptical.
Right.
It's like right off the bat, really? How many test audiences?
Well,
have you run this through?
I agree, but as somebody who's a big fan of Nolan and just what you've seen from his movies at the box office, even ones that he's written. Remember Inception, whether you thought the movie was good or bad, you can't deny that it's one of those kind of landmark movies of the last 10 years. Oh, everybody was talking about it. Everybody's done parodies on it. And that was written and directed by the man. This is another one that's being written and directed by him.
Okay, well, we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, I'm very interested, but I wish they did that with the Star Wars movies. I wish instead of
had Christopher Nolan direct them?
not Nolan specifically, but what I really appreciated about like the 4, 5, and 6, right, was so the 4th one was directed by George Lucas, then 5 and 6 were directed by 2 different people.
Yeah.
And when I saw that J.J. Abrams was directing Force Awakens, I thought they were going to do that same route, but you're going to get a very renowned director for each one.
Yeah.
Not saying Rian Johnson didn't do a good job with The Last Jedi, but I would have liked to be like, oh, we're going to have J.J. Abrams direct the Force Awakens, and then we're going to grab Spielberg to do The Last Jedi.
Could you imagine, though, the pressure on a young and up-and-coming director who's like, hey, here's the Star Wars flick. Don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
The amount of pressure on that would be ungodly, I think.
Poor Rian Johnson. Like, one thing that made me lose respect for Mark Hamill a little bit was, and Mark Hamill has said in interviews too, to where he really disagreed with the direction that they went for Luke Skywalker, right? And Rian Johnson was one of the writers for the movie. A lot of it was his decision. And he has stated in interviews that regardless of how he felt about the role, and he did make that verbally clear to Rian Johnson, he still knew he had to play the part, true to the character as much as he could. Mm-hmm. But what really made me lose respect for him is they did, press tours, Rian Johnson and Mark Hamill. And every press tour, like there was this clip compilation of every time Mark Hamill just made some passive aggressive remark about how he hates what Rian Johnson's done with Luke Skywalker. And you just see Rian Johnson just sitting there just like, well, I knew this was going to happen at some point this time.
At the same time, that was never really, Mark Hamill's call as far as who the Luke Skywalker character was becoming.
Well, and that's my point, so to make these little passive-aggressive remarks on this press tour, and just as you said, this is a young, up-and-coming director, and he has to fucking deal with this bullshit.
Mark Hamill, of all people.
But I don't know, man, I'm more anxious for, they did give Rian Johnson his own Star Wars trilogy. That they're doing. So like I look forward to that. I look forward to a different story that takes place in the universe but just isn't the Skywalker saga.
That's what I'd like to see as well. And honestly, some of the newer stuff from the Star Wars universe has kind of infuriated me specifically. I think we talked about this last time. Yeah. Or maybe off another time or another. But the Han Solo movie, the speeder
Yeah.
bikes that they rode in the beginning.
I think the last time you were on, we were talking about it.
Yeah, those irritated me. The speeder bikes already exist in the Star Wars universe. Why are you making up new vehicles? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm curious to see what period of time this new trilogy comes. I would go and watch something set in the time period that like Knights of the Old Republic was set in. That would be badass.
So I haven't done a lot of research myself, but what Thomas was telling me when he was on is that I guess it's supposed to take place during like when the Jedi was coming up. It's supposed to be like why is the Jedi the Jedi?
Okay.
Like how did that start? You know, so like my guess is, you know, kind of back in medieval times of the Star Wars universe, whatever that means. But
Yoda was a youngling.
Yoda was a baby.
He was a measly 140 years old. Fuck.
But yeah, dude, I don't know. Star Wars is one of those things. I'll go and see every movie, but I'm just never like, oh, Star Wars movie.
I still maintain an iota of nostalgia for the franchise. I always will. Like you said, I've got something about them etched into my flesh, which don't tell Disney. I don't want to get sued. I got it before the merger happened, so back off. But it's just that I have an iota of nostalgia, but the amount of wonder in my heart to rush out and go see the new Star Wars movie just ain't there anymore, man.
Yeah.
I'll still, if I cross by the toy aisle, I'll take a peek at the new toys, but I'm not like, I gotta get this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My uber fandom for the Star Wars universe has waned, and I don't know if that's just me getting older or if it's because of the new movies. I've lost some enthusiasm.
Well, I think the franchise has just become really saturated with a lot of that shit now.
We knew that was going to happen, though. We knew as soon as Disney got the rights, they were going to start bumping that machine for all it was worth.
Well, regardless of the reason, it still happened. We all knew it was going. It still became saturated. You know, it just became saturated because of Disney.
It did,
but. I don't know, dude. I've talked about this before. I just wish that Hollywood would just come up with some new shit. I'm kind of getting tired of just watching sequels of all these movies and stuff like that.
I tell you what I'm not getting tired of, and I'm jumping back on that YouTube tangent. Conspiracy theory videos. Not just conspiracy theory videos specifically, but the weirder stuff, the stuff that's harder to get to.
Yeah, you've shown me a few in the past.
There's some weird ones out there.
Wow, this is out there.
Specifically, I think this one's recently been debunked as being sort of a hoax.
Are you talking about the cosmonauts?
The dead astronaut one.
Yeah, the dead astronaut.
Yeah, if you're ever on YouTube, look up the dead astronaut. I forget the actual name of the channel. I don't even know if it's still up. You might be able to find the videos by looking up like dead astronaut YouTube conspiracy or something. Yeah, something like that. Something along those lines.
They were all just weird,
really weird videos. Yeah. The premise was there was a series of videos that had been made by a former NASA and CERN employee or something along those lines that was released by this guy's attorney upon his death that had like damning evidence that NASA and CERN were behind these really dark webbed conspiracies, and some of them were really off the wall. Other ones kind of fit into a category of, you know, what the hell am I watching? And then there was some that were just plain weird.
Well, they had some that were just like, well, this is what really made it weird. So they would have some of these videos. I remember one of them was like this cosmonaut that was on the moon and got footage of like a moon city or something like that. But it was super blurry. It was super, you know, like whatever. This was on the dead astronaut thing. And then there would be like a small 20-second buffer video, like its own separate video, but it was just like this 20-second weird buffer video where it was like this girl in like this white room and she's like tied up, and this guy wearing like a goat's mask comes over in a robe and basically just drags her off screen. Yeah. And that's all it was for 20 seconds. And then the next video would be this other 10-minute like dead astronaut conspiracy. You know? I mean, do you remember the one that was like a 10-minute video, like an acid trip with just like weird like
it was like weird sound effects and stuff like that
in the background.
They were said it was supposed to let like an alien into your body or something like that.
Yeah.
It was very, very strange. I mean, we did it. We tried it. We're like, all right,
Well,
let's see if we can.
oh, yeah.
Let's see if we can channel
yeah,
an alien
it was
consciousness.
supposed to like happen while you're dreaming or some shit.
Something
remember?
like that. Yeah. So
then
we went down that rabbit hole.
And we woke up the next morning. We're like, any dreams? Like, nope.
That I remember, Halls.
But yeah, that did I remember was debunked. I remember it was like a comedian or something was on another podcast kind of show, and
I thought I
had
read or heard something about it. So yeah, I was kind of relieved to see that one wasn't real, because I'm like, if this is real shit, come on, this is insanity.
Well, and there's been a lot of interesting videos out there like that on YouTube, and I actually enjoy some of those series. I feel like those kind of series are kind of, their own little art form. Because there was one that was out back when the Slender Man craze was really big. That was when the story came out. There was a game of Slender Man.
Those two girls murdered stabbed the hell out of their friend for Slender Man.
Right.
Man, they got hit. They got charged as adults.
Oh yeah, both of them.
That's crazy.
But there was something that happened before that was there were these videos, this YouTube channel that was called Marble Hornets. And the YouTube channel started with these videos of just these like 3 to 4 high school friends. One of them was like a film nerd like I was growing up, and getting with friends and wanting to make short films and do that kind of stuff. But then you would see all of a sudden, like in the background in the forest, they look like they're somewhere up north, or there's a lot of like foresty and trees areas, and you'd see in the very far back, you'd see like this man wearing a suit that had no discernible face, just standing back there. And then all of a sudden, it would be a video of the guy like, there's something in my house, I don't know what's going on. And he's kind of moving the camera around, and all of a sudden he'd round the corner, and you'd see like a glimpse of it, and he'd scream, and he'd run back the other way.
Yeah.
And it was one of those videos to where you didn't know it was fake at first. Once you got like 20 videos in, you started to realize like, oh, this is like a series.
There was like a pattern.
This is a series somebody is making. But it became, it had a little cult following though, because they were literally selling DVDs of the entire series, because there was a beginning, middle, and end of what happened to this kid through this Slender Man journey of his.
Wow, okay.
So when you were like bringing up, when we were talking about Dead Astronaut, I would argue that that's kind of one of those. They're just these weird kind of series that pop up on YouTube, and they're supposed to be played off like it's real, like it's serious, but it's not. But it tells a story if you keep going with it, and if you keep watching it, and it can cause you to think about things. Like Dead Astronaut definitely caused and stirred conversation between us about this kind of stuff.
It also definitely sparked me on a couple of those morbid curiosity trips about conspiracies revolving around things like CERN and NASA. Yeah. Again, if you ever go down these rabbit holes, take what you read with a grain of salt, because you never know where a lot of these sources are coming from, but. Anything to do with the moon always freaks me out, and it's always something that makes my ears perk up. I think the moon is shady, man.
Are you talking about like supposedly finding lost cities or whatnot on the moon?
Maybe not even a lost city, but like what if the moon is not what it advertises as being, which is a big rock in space? What if it's a big observation thing, a vessel of some type? What if it's like the alien regulators of this planet? You know what I mean?
Well, that would...
Orbiting, always watching. There's a couple of documentaries you can find on Netflix about weird stuff they found on the moon. Stuff that, like, geologists and engineers have been like, that's not natural, that's man-made.
Well...
Which is speculative. You look at some of these photos and you go, okay, that looks like rocks. And then a lot of them they have to, like, point out and then circle or highlight, or we reduced the image graining down by, 400%.
You know what? I know exactly what you're talking about. So what you are referring to, because there was a series of little documentary videos on YouTube about this, and I think there was actually a documentary about this on Netflix at one point. Yeah. So you're talking about when they were flying satellites or shuttles over there, and as they're flying by, they see these like structures on the moon, and some of them look like long piping, or like leftover ruins from like an advanced civilization, something like that. And they would like go slow, and they do like a close up of it, and you'd see, that exactly. So what I think that is because we saw these kind of things on Mars also. One of the most famous examples on Mars was the face on Mars, right? But if you get down really close, or if you look at it from a different angle, you can tell like, oh, it's just mountains, you know, like they just happen to look like a face when you're that high up, blah, blah, or the way that the light was hitting it, you know, just coincidence, right? And I think that's all it is on the moon, is because we're so far up that these like things that might just be, you know, a giant rock or a series of holes that just happen to, at the right angle they are catching it and everything, happen to look like these little structures.
Oh, man, but it makes you wonder. It really does.
Well, there's the belief, right, that Mars at one point, well, we know this for sure, that Mars at one point was in the habitable zone of the sun, which means life could have been found and harvested, you know, and grown on Mars for
there's
God
still
knows
water
how long.
on there, you know.
Right.
So how much do you know about the objects that have been seen on Venus?
0.
Oh, that's just it.
We've only been to Venus once, haven't we?
Oh no, Russia sent a probe to Venus.
Okay.
It's recorded footage, but we've pelted Venus with satellites before. But here's the thing: there's not a whole lot of interest in going to Venus. It's a hell of a lot closer than going to Mars. It's not necessarily within a habitable zone, but it's an area that's rich. It has like a...
well, Venus is another one that we know was in the habitable zone at one point.
It's super hot, though. But yeah, that's the thing.
Well, greenhouse effect, that's the whole thing. That's why we know it used to be like us.
But, okay, if you look at pictures of Venus, and it's funny, because that's how I remembered Venus, the one that's got the V in it, right?
Right.
So they've retrieved satellite images of that strange spot where it seems like gravity is pulling the wind on a massive scale.
Right.
The massive methane winds to make that happen, because there's like 400-mile-per-hour winds and stuff on Venus. It's a geometric shape.
What the winds are?
The thing that is making and breaking the winds on Venus is a geometric shape. Now that's startling to me.
Okay, you're gonna have to go more in depth with this explanation, because I have zero clue what you're talking about.
On Venus, if you look at most pictures, will show sort of a V shape happening, like a gator mouth, at one point in the atmosphere,
like a break above the clouds against the wind.
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
So upon closer inspection, the thing that is causing that massive shift of crazy winds and energy is it's a geometric shape.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what, like a giant fucking pole or building? Like, what do they like? Well, like, what do they expect the shape is? Or do
Venus,
we not know?
And NASA has no comments. We can only speculate.
Yeah. NASA has stated we have no comments on this matter.
Okay, it's not that they haven't.
I just feel like that's something they.
It's not that they've stated that directly, but whenever asked about it or made mention, there's nothing happening with Venus. Basically, no one gives a shit about Venus. But there's still strange things that other countries are doing with Venus that make you wonder, what's happening with Venus? Why Venus?
So, well, why Venus? I mean, like, why not Mercury? Why haven't we looked at Mercury more? What the fuck's going on with Mercury?
Too close to the sun, lad. Too close to the sun. Too bloody hot. No bloody atmosphere.
Because I know, because Mars is speculation, but I know Venus is. We know for a fact that because of, how the sun expands when it's first born, that it was in the habitable zone.
Yeah, like I said, it's closer to Earth.
I'm sorry, because the sun starts smaller, it was in the habitable zone.
Venus is closer to Earth than like we said Mars is. So,
well, but Venus, because I remember the Russian probe, for example, that went to Venus and recorded footage. They recorded like 6 seconds of footage before
it melted.
Yeah, it melted, exactly. So obviously Mars is, regardless if Mars is a little farther away or not, it only makes sense that Mars would be the ones that we want to go to.
But it still makes you scratch your head as to why are they sending probes to Venus? If nobody else, no other space institute or research industry has any interest in Venus, why do the Russians? Why does anybody?
Well, isn't that because we know it used to be Earth-like?
Did it?
Well, yeah. We're pretty confident in that. That's why the greenhouse effect exists at all on Venus.
Okay.
Because it had to have our kind of rich in oxygen atmosphere for it to burn up into carbon dioxide and cause this greenhouse effect, which only happens when it gets closer to the sun.
For everybody listening right now, we're just two regular guys talking about what we think we know about planets and stuff. So
I'm pretty confident about that, though.
If you've got degrees in like planetary science, leave a comment below.
We're just young, dumb, and full of opinions.
That's
guys.
right. That's right.
But no, but I am very confident about that. I've taken a few astronomy classes in college, and I had to do a whole report on Venus.
Okay.
And how like if life could exist on Venus, what kind of life would it be?
Interesting.
But I think that's why we keep sending probes and everything there. And maybe Americans, maybe we're just more concerned about this race to Mars that, just because there's so many independent companies trying to get there first.
Why don't we focus on the moon, though?
That is true. I've never understood that.
Yeah. What's
I've never
with the
understood
moon,
why we don't go back to the moon and do more research there. Like, I just, excuse me. I just feel like until we've covered all of the moon, it should still be priority.
Yeah.
Like, let's find out everything going on the moon.
Yeah. Maybe set up some bases, like we have in Antarctica.
Yeah.
It's almost like we can put bases in really hostile places. I got bases in hostile places. That sounds like a country song for Star Wars. I'm sorry.
But that is something I've never understood, is to, just as you said, why not set up bases or whatnot on the moon? It'd be much more tangible, and at that point you'll be closer to Mars, not by much, but by some.
It's much more tangible than building an elevator to the friggin' moon. Like, people like, what? No, we can totally do it, guys. That sounds like an engineer just took a fat bong rip and was like, no, guys, listen, guys, elevator. Follow me here.
It is definitely one of those things that doesn't make sense to me. But at the same time, maybe it's this fear that because the moon is plays such a pivotal role, and how the Earth interacts with itself and everything on it.
Yeah.
That it's just, has such a pull on the tides and everything. Maybe there's just this underlining fear of like, we don't want to fuck anything up when it comes to the moon.
It's so big, it fucks with like Earth's gravity, man. That's the weird shit. And yeah, it's responsible for the tides. Could you imagine if we didn't have a satellite pushing the oceans? Just how it would be stagnant water, bro.
Yeah.
It would get nasty really quick, I think. So it's a good thing them waters are moving. Them currents are going.
Yeah,
it's almost like it was placed there. Oh, maybe to get life out of the ocean onto the land. Weird.
Space is crazy, dude. And now we're expecting
Space, so crazy.
And now we're expecting to get to Mars by like 2024 or some shit like that.
That's what we're told. But again, we're like, we'll get to Mars in our lifetime. We'll be great, falling apart, dying. They'll be like, yeah, we're sending the first probe to Mars. Great.
Awesome.
What did he say?
All right. Well, on that note, we are at our time here.
Yeah, we were trying to go for a record tonight, but I guess I'm being kicked out.
No, well, so here's what happened. just a quick last note. Here's what happened to me last night. So Kyle and I decided that we wanted to do, I called Kyle over and we did a podcast, and Kyle brought beer. So Kyle brought a 6-pack of Blue Moon.
Thus all the beer bottles when I walked in today.
Yes.
All right.
So Kyle and I, of course, love our Blue Moon, and he and I can, put down quite a few beers, the two of us. And so that's kind of how, our raising kid conversation, sort of turned into this like theory of God thing. So it was just, we weren't paying attention to time is what ended up happening.
I see.
So here was the issue I ran in though, because we were doing it later at night, just how we're doing it later at night here, is I wanted to try getting it up before midnight. Well, I missed midnight by like 4 minutes.
Oh,
I know, when it finally got up.
Bad.
So it's like, I don't feel bad about it because I feel like I've proven myself to everybody so far that I do a podcast every day.
Yeah.
And
so you definitely have content.
Maybe it did not get up before midnight, but it was fucking recorded.
Forgive him, people, for his 4-minute transgression.
But I'm not going to do that tonight.
Okay.
So,
okay.
And I'm pretty confident, Vince, once I have you on one of my 3-man podcasts with like Justin or Matthew, or God forbid you, me, and Kyle.
That's gonna be a microphone gangbang.
That will be
you, me, and Kyle.
I'm pretty confident that'll end up being quite a long podcast.
It's going to be a spirited podcast for certain. All three of us all talking at the same time, and Kyle screaming. Kyle, you know you do. So,
so look forward to that, guys.
I just wanted to say real quick though, I want to try to start something. I want to so far give you my opinion of what my favorite podcast has been.
Okay.
So far.
Okay.
My favorite one, and I can't say I've listened to all of them. You guys have a lot. But one that I have listened to multiple times aside from my own, was the episode where you and Justin went shot for shot.
On
vodka. You guys were...
Oh, the St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, the St. Patrick's Day one. And let me tell you why. Because for about half an hour of that podcast, you guys had obviously forgotten you were doing a podcast.
Yeah.
And you guys just started talking to each other about like, yeah, man, you know, the cleanliness of this place, blah, 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 you know. Oh, bro, you remember that one time? Like, you guys totally forgot there were microphones there. You guys, I don't know if you were that drunk or just that enamored in the conversation.
No, I think we actually talked about that either after the podcast, or I think I may have even mentioned it on the podcast because I do remember when that happened. And I think on the podcast, if you go back and listen to it, I was like, I forgot that we were podcasting. Because, yeah, I just started talking to Justin about, like, yeah, I was thinking about, like, building a futon. And, you know,
that's right.
But I have this room that's, like, doing this and then the other. And, yeah, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, we're doing a podcast right now.
The title of that one should have been Futon Pillow Talk. You should go back and change that.
That's clickbait right
Futon
there.
Futon Pillow Talk.
But no, it was, but that was definitely a fun one. One thing I've wanted to do with these podcasts that I think it will get better over time, but I do want to try to make some of those days very like themed days.
Okay.
And I think you'll get, you know, that's why kind of St. Patty's Day. I was like, well, why not? We have this bottle of vodka from like a leftover party.
Dude, some of these themes could get dangerous though.
Yes. Well, I think you're going to start seeing more during like the second half of the year because usually 4th of July kind of jump starts the whole holiday season thing.
We at 4th of July, we got to do a vlog of me setting off fireworks because I have way too much fun with that. And I have enough property to where I can do it. So
yeah. Oh, and I'm glad you brought up the vlogs. So for those who have made it this far and have been talking or, you know, keeping up with the stuff on the channel, I haven't put out a vlog of my own in a bit, but I'm kind of reduxing my vlog, and then Matthew's vlog's going to be up here soon as well. But dude, when I was doing the vlogs, I just realized like all these vlogs are like these started to become me vlogging about editing the last vlog. Like that's what ended up happening, and I'm like, I'm not going to fucking do this. Like this is fucking stupid. So what my vlogs are gonna turn into is, you know, those little like confessionals I've given at the end of my vlogs thus far.
Yeah.
So they're basically just gonna be those.
Okay.
And when something interesting does happen, I'll vlog about it and then include that into that series.
Adam's confession.
Yeah. You know what, man? That's been my hardest fucking part, is trying to think of a name for this goddamn.
I did not just give you a title.
No.
Okay, I was about to say, you cannot tell me you did not think of that combination of words.
No.
Okay.
I thought about confessional. I've thought about a few different things, but nothing's tickled me yet. So we'll see what happens with those. But that's what you guys will be getting here soon, just if you made it this far. But anyways, thank you so much for listening to tonight's podcast. I'm very anxious to get this one up so you guys can all listen to it. Thank you, Vince, for joining me tonight.
Thank you, Adam, for having me on. And a big shout out to my wife if she listens to this. Thank you. You know why.
Oh, yeah.
She let me come over tonight. She took the leash off. So I was like, Adam got a hold of me a little late. And she's like, okay. So I was like, all right.
Yeah, here's what's funny, guys. I was at this point, so I'm down in town closer to all of these people who have been guests on the podcast currently, and I'll be here until Wednesday. And so tonight, I asked one person, like, hey, do you want to be in, you know, my podcast today? Sorry, I can't. Then I asked Kyle again. I was like, Kyle, like, do you think you could do a podcast today? sorry, man, I can't tonight. I got this and this and this. I tried texting my buddy Chris, never got back to me. I think he's either sleeping or at work. And then I text you, and I text you, like, you were the first one I text.
Yeah.
But when you didn't respond, I started texting everybody else.
I was in the heated game of Dungeons and Dragons, so I apologize for my lateness.
Oh, that's fine. But like I got to this point, and then when you finally did text back, you told me no at first. So I was totally like, and I was running out of time. So I was totally prepared of like, all right, solo podcast today. How are we going to do this, Adam? I have to keep people entertained by myself for an hour.
I had seen the text a little late, and I saw it, and I immediately thought like, okay, it's probably a little bit later than that. I should probably respond in the negatory so as not to upset the wife. It's what she would want. I went back and I told her, I was like, hey, Adam, man, yeah, he invited me over for a podcast. She's like, oh, you're not going to go? No, I can't, can I? So that happened.
Well, I was very happy to have you on today, Vince.
Oh, man, thank you for having me. And yeah, thank you all out there in YouTube land, because I guess I'm popular. So, woo!
Woo!
And as always, please, ladies and gentlemen, just be excellent to each other.
There you go, guys. Have a lovely night, guys. We will talk to you later. Oh, remember Patreon, www.patreon.com/HardlyMillennial. Thank you.
You better do it.